welterweight after Spence and Crawford?
Man, if they don't get Boots now, if they don't get him now, I'm letting y'all know right now. If they don't get him now and he keeps maturing and getting better and building confidence, I'm telling you, he's gonna take over. He's gonna take over the welterweight. No doubt about it.
Crawford?
Man, if they don't get Boots now, if they don't get him now, I'm letting y'all know right now. If they don't get him now and he keeps maturing and getting better and building confidence, I'm telling you, he's gonna take over. He's gonna take over the welterweight. No. Man, if they don't get Boots now, if they don't get him now, I'm letting y'all know right now. If they don't get him now and he keeps maturing and getting better and building confidence, I'm telling you, he's gonna take over. He's gonna take over the welterweight. No.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one.
Out of my mind, he has everything. So you just need to, keep working on your defense though. Like, don't get him now and he keeps maturing and getting better and building confidence. I'm telling you, he's gonna take over. He's gonna take over the welterweight. No doubt in my mind, he has everything. So you just need to, keep working on your defense though.
It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So what you just heard was the voice of two-division world champion superstar boxer who is retired in Timothy Desert Storm Bradley. Timothy Bradley is now a boxing pundit and an analyst for top-ranked ESPN and Bob Arum. Okay, so with that said, Timothy Bradley, he was on hand for the massive unification showdown between undefeated two-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Oscar Valdez, who's the WBC reigning super featherweight world champion, and undefeated two-division world champion, WBO reigning super featherweight world champion, superstar boxer Shakur Stevenson. Top-ranked fight. So with that said, Timothy Bradley is on hand to talk about the fight, give his analysis on it, and give his opinions on it. While there, obviously, Timothy Bradley, he was asked about the massive, mega, undisputed showdown between ERROL Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford. And Timothy Bradley, he was then asked, as you can hear, about undefeated rising welterweight superstar title contender Jaron Boots Ennis, who is 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 26 big wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. Now, what Timothy Bradley just stated that if ERROL Spence, who's the undefeated, newly crowned, unified three-belt welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top three best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, ERROL Spence Jr. at 28 wins, no losses, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, and undefeated former three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, who is currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence Bud Crawford, who is 38 wins, no losses, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, they make up for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. That's the fight the fans have been clamoring for. The boxing pundits, their peers, they've been clamoring to see Terence Crawford versus ERROL Spence Jr., okay? In which Timothy Bradley, he states that he got Terence Crawford winning by 9th to 11th round knockout, but he could see it going in a different direction because he said that the body punch and the body attack of ERROL Spence Jr. is something that Terence Crawford has never witnessed, has never felt, and that's a very serious thing. But on the flip side, he don't believe that Terence Crawford, that ERROL Spence has ever seen Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford has the total package. With that said, he stated that if these guys, Terence Crawford and ERROL Spence, don't get Jaron Boots Ennis right now, and they allow him to get better and get more experience, he has no doubt in his mind that he's going to beat both of them, and he's going to take over the welterweight division. Okay, so he says, I have no doubt in my mind, as you heard him say, that he's going to take over the welterweight division.
Like, sometimes you can get a little bit too cute with your
Listen.
take over the welterweight. No doubt in my mind. He has everything. They just need it.
So he has everything. So I always say this, that Jaron Boots Ennis has all of their strength and not many of their weaknesses. Okay, meaning that Terence Crawford is considered the more versatile fighter. He switches from southpaw to orthodox, extremely long arms, power in both hands, a better athlete than ERROL Spence Jr. But Terence Crawford doesn't have the size, okay? Terence Crawford, he don't have the physicality that Errol Spence presents. Now, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is not as fundamentally sound and gifted as Errol Spence is. So Terence Crawford doesn't have the fundamental sound discipline that Errol Spence has. He doesn't have the size, the strength that Errol Spence has. Okay, but Terence Crawford has the athletic ability. Now, Errol Spence, on the flip side, he's not seen as quick of an athlete as Terence Crawford, but he's big, he's strong, he's fundamentally sound, and he's a big southpaw. Now, he don't switch from orthodox to southpaw. He stays as a southpaw. He's a southpaw, okay? But Errol Spence has a great jab, great timing, and he goes to the body. He's a relentless body attack, okay, with his fundamental sounds. Terence Crawford, he don't go to the body like Errol Spence does, but he has the ability to switch from southpaw, give you different angles, different looks. Well, Jaron Boots Ennis, he has the total package. He has the size, the fundamental sound skills of Errol Spence. He can fight in a southpaw manner like Errol Spence. He's big, he's strong like Errol Spence, and he goes to the body like Errol Spence, but he's a better athlete. So then he has the ability to do what Terence Crawford does. He has the ability to switch from southpaw to orthodox. He has a great jab, and he has power in both hands. He's just a better fluid athlete. But he has the size, the strength, and the fundamentals that Terence Crawford doesn't possess, right? So he's like, you combined Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and you came up with Jaron Boots Ennis, which is these guys. Terence Crawford is seen as #1 best fighter in the world. Jaron Boots Ennis is seen as, Errol Spence is seen as #3 best fighter in the world. Some people say Errol Spence is #2. Some people say Errol Spence is #1. There's another guy that has to be thrust in the conversation, and that's 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, who currently is the undisputed super middleweight world champion. That's Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, many people will tell you Canelo Alvarez is the best fighter in the world. There's many people that tell you Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. And then there's many people that tell you Errol Spence is the best fighter in the world. One thing's for sure, two things for certain. They're top 3, regardless of what order you choose to put them in. Jaron Boots Ennis, at 24 years of age, possesses everything they have. And like I said, without their weaknesses, right? So Errol Spence doesn't have the foot speed that Terence Crawford have, right? With his size. Jaron Ennis has the foot speed with Errol Spence's size, okay? Terence Crawford, when he's fighting in the orthodox stance, especially now, he's not as effective as he once was. Jaron Boots Ennis is effective in the southpaw stance, but he's big like Errol Spence. He's actually bigger than Errol Spence. So Terence Crawford has extremely long arms at 74 inches arms. Jaron Ennis has extremely long arms at 74-inch arms, right? Errol Spence has shorter arms. Jaron Ennis has power in his left and his right, right? So you see, he has all of their strengths, but none of their, what you would consider their weaknesses. Terence Crawford doesn't have the size and the physical attributes and the fundamental skills that Errol Spence has. Jaron Ennis has those. Errol Spence is not seen to have the athletic ability and the versatility the range that Terence Crawford has. Jaron Boots Ennis has that as well. So what you would say is the weakness when they come together. So saying this to say is that when you have Errol Spence fighting Terence Crawford, the highlights what Errol Spence does, his weaknesses against Terence Crawford and Terence Crawford's weaknesses against Errol Spence. So saying this to say is that people feel like Errol Spence is just too big, too fundamentally sound, too physical for Terence Crawford, right? And then if you pick in Terence Crawford, you're going to say he's too versatile, too athletic, too quick, with very long arms and power in both hands and ability to switch to southpaw to orthodox, when you saying that Terence Crawford is going to win. So if you pick in Errol Spence, you're going to say his physicality, Terence Crawford can't keep up with the pace, okay? The physicality, the body work, okay, of Errol Spence. If you pick in Errol Spence, and if you pick in Terence Crawford, vice versa, okay? Well, Jaron Boots Ennis, he possesses all of those things. He possesses all of those things, which makes it interesting. Now, Terence Crawford is 34. He's 10 years Jaron Ennis senior, okay? Errol Spence is 8 years his senior. So Errol Spence, he already acknowledged that he'll possibly see Jaron Ennis at 154. He only has 1 to 2 fights left at welterweight, and he's leaving the division, which was the Ugas fight, his last fight in the unification bout, and then this fight with Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, he already expressed that he wants to move up to junior middleweight as well. Jaron Ennis is looking to become a champion, unify the belts, and possibly become undisputed at welterweight, which means he's going to be at welterweight for at least another 2 years. I don't see either one of them being around the welterweight division for another year. So if they do face off against Jaron Boots Ennis, it's going to be at 154. So I do believe he's going to take over the welterweight division. I just don't think he's going to have to go through or will be awarded the opportunity to go through them to prove that he's the welterweight king. So I think it will be a junior middleweight when he meets up with either Errol Spence or Terence Crawford, or maybe both. But the Errol Spence, physicality translate better at 154, in my opinion, than Terence Crawford does, seeing as though he started 130, 135. But Timothy Bradley, he goes on to say that Jaron Ennis needs to clean up his defense because he could get a little cute, leave himself open to get clipped. And he said that you'll pay for that in the long run. But Jaron Ennis, he has a fight, IBF, International Boxing Federation title eliminator, coming up May 14th as the co-main event against undefeated Canadian boxer Custio Clayton on the undercard of Jamel Charlo, Brian Castano, highly anticipated undisputed rematch. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out moving forward in the future of Jaron Boots Ennis. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Roll. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.